as Lord Dakshinamurti. And in the center of this, we have Adi Shankaracharya shining as a beautiful pendant. And coming down to our own teachers, Pujya Swamiji and Pujya Mataji, the lineage continues. The sermon of Lord Dakshinamurti was silence, sitting under a banyan tree. His disciples were sages like Sanat Kumars, who ran away from their father in search of knowledge. So silence was sufficient for them. Even sitting under a banyan tree was okay. But when it came to Adi Shankaracharya, he had to become vocal. He had to write Bhashya on Prasthantrayee, because it is said that even the scholars during those times did not understand Brahma Sutra. And also sitting at one place was not sufficient. He had to roam all over to impart this knowledge. Let's say Shambhu Murti, Jivane Charanti, Shankaracharya Rupa. And when we come to our levels, we needed acharyas even to explain and unfold those bhashyas. And they did to such an extent that today it has come to our homes in the form of various CDs, DVDs and other publications. Such is the great tradition. And at the onset, my salutations to this Guru Shishya Parampara. This Vyasa Purnima has its own importance in the Vedic tradition. Like it is the incarnation day of Veda Vyasa, or it is the beginning of Dakshinayana, the period which is very conducive for one's spiritual growth. But when I introspect and see what does it mean to me, then if Purnima, which represents the full moon, that final stage in the phases of moon, depicting the fullness, completeness, wholeness, giving out light and shining in all its glory, then a thought comes that this Purnima had been in my life for last more than 36 years. Yes, my association with Pujya Swamiji dates back to 1977-78 when he first came to Hyderabad. I met him before he started teaching, so naturally I was there for the very first class. And recently when I was witnessing the Shiva Shakti Ashram inaugural, the whole journey flashed before my eyes. What a pinnacle of service to Ishvara. What a commitment and dedication to the task his Sadguru has entrusted. And most importantly, what a teaching for all of us through his example. Actually, Swamiji doesn't have to take any class of example. I always say Swamiji's life is Swamiji's message. Actually, these are the words of Pujya Mahatma Gandhi in his autobiography, but they very aptly apply to all Mahatmas. Those 4 days, all of us were drenched in the divine serenity. Everything was so meticulous. The planning, the management, the execution. My mind trained for corporate challenges thought, this is beyond the capacity of any efficient corporate manager, and only a divine manager like Pujya Mataji can handle. She was the prime mover. She was into everything and everything was into her. And I go down to that Durga Parmeshwari. On one side was this out of the world experience, and on the other side there was so much learning from it. It's an example of what a Sadguru can do in appreciation of the sadhana of his beloved disciple, a Sat Shishya, like our respected Vade Maharaj. That a place of worship, a place of sadhana is created for everyone. Can he imagine the extent of compassion in his heart? No. I can resort to the Shastra and only say, Ahetu Daya Sindhu. He is the ocean of compassion without any reason. Actually, Adi Shankaracharya in Viveka Chudamani very beautifully describes Mahatmas. Like at one place he says they are like a dry leaf falling and going wherever the wind takes them without an agenda of their own. And at another place he says they are like a spring season. Vasanta Vallo Logantam Charanda. Like the spring season goes to each and every flower for blossoming it without any discrimination. So when it comes to Mahatmas, the words are not sufficient. Long ago when this ashram was new, on one Guru Purnima day, we were sitting in Annapurna Hall in a very small group. And there was a devotee from US. And she had asked Swamiji one question. What is the role of Guru in one's life? And Swamiji had answered that Guru is like a torch, showing you the way on a dark path, but step by step, maybe 10 to 20 feet at a time. And when you reach each destination, he shows you further till you reach the destination. And once you reach the destination, it is put out because someone else down the line needs it. It had a strong impact on me. But when I think about my own life, this long association with Swamiji, I feel that Swamiji had been like a lighthouse for me, and just not a torch, sending out that brilliant beam of light on the dark sea of samsara, or you call it anything, showing everything very clearly. Nothing is left unturned. What was left, that I had to do my own saving. And even this message was very loud and clear. Swamiji, you had been like a true mirror for me, showing me what I am not. The normal mirror shows you what you are physically. But if I am not the body, not the mind, and when the mental conditioning is questioned to find out the identity for the self, the answers start coming. And Swamiji, you taught me this questioning. You taught me to inquire, not just to believe and accept. You taught me not to get entangled in the labels attached to the personality, like an engineer, a wife, a mother, a doctor, or good or bad, because the labels bind us. The real freedom lies when we drop down these labels. And I lived that life. You taught me not to divide anything and everything into good, bad, attachment, aversions, likes, dislikes, favorable, unfavorable. Because events are events, situations are situations, people are people. We brand them as good or bad. Such a teaching shakes you up. And when you contemplate on this, you get a feeling. Questions happen, answers happen, and in the end it is as if nothing has happened. Swamiji, you taught me to go beyond logic, because if one gets entangled in logic, one cannot transcend the physicality. I very clearly remember the way you spoke about Sukha and Dukkha, that it is not outside but inside us. You assured me the difference between space, Akash, and the atmospheric weather. All the changes are in the weather, like a good weather, bad weather, rainy weather, shiny weather. But nothing happens to the space. All the tsunamis, the hurricanes and tornadoes are in the weather. They are in the mind, and they bind us. Such was the teaching. You also explained to me what is meant by Sharanagati, the total surrender. It is not an act, it is not an emotion, but it is a vision. It is a wisdom to accept Ishvara's will in total. Agate Swagatam Kuriyat had been your teaching from the very first class, and that helped me to face challenges in day-to-day life and also to overcome the mental insecurities. So year by year, step by step, you peel the wrong layers of conceptions and perceptions and showed me what is really needs to be done. Actually, you also showed me not to lean psychologically on anyone, including a Sadguru, because even Sadguru comes as a person. His knowledge, his wisdom. Take refuge in that wisdom was your advice. Anytime in distress, open the book of Bhagavad Gita and you will find answers. Actually, university education doesn't teach us to live life in real sense. In fact, it brings in a lot of disappointments, frustrations, dualities. The real learning starts when you come across Brahmanishta and Kshatriya Sadguru. One can get everything in life, name, fame, money, people, education, everything. But to get such a firm anchor, one needs Ishvara's grace. With the grace of Ishvara, you get a Sadguru. Or if I am allowed to say, the right Guru just happens. serve him, learn from him, you start understanding the scriptures. When those words come alive, you can literally see the Guru Kripa in that. So Ishwar Kripa, Guru Kripa, Shastra Kripa. And with the Shastra Kripa, they say you get the grace of self, Atma Kripa. And these four fulfill a human life. The external life goes on with little ups and downs. But there is definitely change in the internal life. You can feel it, you can sense it. You really become more sensitive to that interiority. You experience the calmness. In any given situation, you can act but not react. There is so much to say, but I feel there is a lot more to experience. And I don't want to judge where I am today, nor I am anxious for any spiritual goals. But one thing is definitely happening, that reverence, you call it Guru Bhav, is increasing day by day. Actually, it is in and through. And it is so happening that it is becoming more dear than the very existence. There is a beautiful word in English for this, it is called reverence. Swami Chinmayananda ji used to define it very nicely. He used to say that your head can think and judge. Your heart can love and have the emotion of service, that is Seva Bhav. And when head and heart come together, the power of judgment, the sense of respect, meets the emotion of love, the attitude of service, and reverence is born. And I add to it that actually they fuse together to form an amalgam, where there is no physical mixture, but there is a chemical bonding. And you start respecting what you love and you love what you respect. And today I have just that reverence to offer at the lotus feet of Pujya Swamiji and Pujya Mataji. And I conclude with a prayer to them, asking for their grace and guidance all through this journey.